haven't had the chance. Yeah, no, it's totally cool. I think even for the people that haven't read the book, you'll find that you'll be able to contribute in various ways because we all have like relationships with people, right? So, all right, let's kick off. Does anyone have anything to kick us off with what they've read on 3 to 4 for the people that have read it? Not yet? Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking at this YouTube thing. It's giving me like a funny thing. What's that?
I said, for once, I haven't actually read these chapters.
Yeah, Joel normally is like, oh yeah, I've got
what they've read on 3 to 4 for the people that have read it.
So what I'm going to do is...
Not yet.
This is YouTube. All right, cool. So I will kick off. And what I have found is that generally once people warm up, you guys will want to chat. So how it works is to not talk over each other. You guys can feel free to just interact in the chat whilst we're like going through the thing, especially when we're talking about key points and you pick it up, like type it in the chat for everyone. So you feel interactive. And when you want to contribute, put that little hand thing up. So in the reaction button, there's like a hand raise. So feel free to hand raise at any moment and I'll just call your name and then you can add your 2 cents into it, yeah? All right, so chapter 3 is on understanding like trauma bonds. This is such an interesting one. So I'm going to try and read it more in first person. Okay, when I was in a clinical practice, my clients would tell me that they were always getting into the wrong relationships. They were stuck in the same conflict over and over again. And then what they really wanted is like lasting relationships and lasting partnership, but they haven't been able to find a way to sustain that. So what she's found that the clients that are in common was that they go into the cycle of repeating behavioral patterns or habits that they couldn't break. And they keep thinking there's like something wrong with them. And that they feel they're either unlovable, undateable, or broken. Or that they were some sort of victim to uncompromising, unemotional, or unloving partners. So if this sounds familiar to you, I assure you that there's nothing wrong with you or your loved ones that loving, authentic relationships are possible. So these relationship ruts, so many of you find yourself trapped in, aren't necessarily your fault. Our nervous system is wired to seek out and recreate relationship patterns that mirrors our earlier relationship with our parents or parent figures. And a lot of the times, these aren't authentic connections, but rather trauma bonds. Do you guys resonate with some of this? I definitely do. Yeah, I've got some head nods. Yeah, and when a lot of times when I talk to my friends, I'm like, yeah, a lot of us feel that like growing up. So there's a story of Dominic and Monique. In this story, it was like she found that no amount of conventional therapy or self-help tool made an impact on a lot of these relationship patterns. Certainly in myself, I found the same thing. Like I have been through certain things and I went to like traditional therapy and things like that. And I'm like, it's just not really helping. A lot of the times, like I felt like I'm pretty smart in these things, like I get it. So I go into these therapy sessions, I'm like, I know what I'm supposed to do, and this treatment's not helping me, right? That's what led me to do like a lot of the personal growth path that I've gone into. So in this story, in Monique and Dominic's case, they got married, but then over time they felt really disconnected and resentful towards each other. So they met like 8 years ago. And then back then they were like immediately infatuated with each other. They felt like, they were meant to be, things like life was easy, natural. But then over time, Dominic was landing fewer jobs. And so he was bringing in less income. And so Monique had this feeling like he's just like kind of not pulling his weight. So she wasn't happy that he wasn't trying hard enough to win clients. And so she looked more into his action and realized that Dominic was gambling his money away. And then the more she was like looking into his action, Dominic became even more secretive about what he was doing. And so when this couple therapy session was going on, it was found out that Dominic was actually adopted at a young age. And he had a very like hypervigilant mom, which is like similar to helicopter parents. I've actually never heard helicopter parents. Like my terminology is kind of like the tiger moms. So helicopter moms or vigilant moms are like the ones that are like constantly monitoring, micromanage, and try to control their child, driven by their internal anxiety stemming from their own nervous system, like bad regulation. So they do this like surveillance child thing. In their mind, it's benefiting the child. But obviously, this constant overseeing and over analyzing into the kid's mood, behavior, thoughts, it's and forcing them to pursue certain activities and interests, it's all adding up to this trauma. So Dominic's father, on the other hand, he was a very distant dad. Like he was very distant from the family and left Dominic alone to protect himself against his mom's intrusion. So when Dominic was young, he often felt overwhelmed by his mom, and she was always yelling at him to be careful, even when there was no threat. And she would go over like what to eat, how to feel, what to do, just controlling his life. Because of this, Dominic felt unworthy and shameful at his core. When someone's always trying to control or change you, this is what happens. And so this interaction conditioned him to believe that love and affection came with hypervigilance. His mom, this constant oversight didn't give Dominic any space to share his own thoughts, feelings, or perspective freely, and were constantly violated. And he didn't feel truly safe of who he was. I don't know about you guys, that's like me. And I know that like a lot of people feel kind of like that too, like the overbearing parenting, trying to get the kids like bubble wrapping them to everything that they do. So this this constant stress on the nervous system forces our body to go into that fight and flight mode. And it's giving us that focus and energy to face this threat or run away from it. So his mom's controlling action is so overwhelming, but he couldn't physically like run away from home because he was dependent on like her to survive, right, as a kid. So Dominic continued to kind of like run away from his discomfort by turning inwards. And this is when this gambling habit happened. And we see this a lot with people having like compulsive disorder or addictive behavior, like whether that's gambling, some sort of sexting, some sort of overworking thing, or substance, drugs, alcohol as a mean of escaping this deep-rooted pain or overwhelming emotion. When Dominic met Monique, everything about her felt similar and safe. She was different from Dominic moms in many ways, but she exhibited the same core behavior that he instinctively understood as love. That is the love that he knew. And so this is what creates a lot of relationship issues in many people, because we're seeking out a partner that we feel familiar rather than what we really want. And for Monique, she also went through a similar thing where she was micromanaged and she always felt threatened in other ways, and she felt unsafe. So because of this shared experience, they were instinctively attracted to each other because Dominic was unpredictable. And so then she starts talking about driven to recreate your childhood. So Monique and Dominic didn't consciously choose to recreate conditions in their relationship that allowed them to reenact that same stress and experience. It's just that trauma and constant overwhelm trying to cope with this thing, regardless of how good or well-meaning the parent figures have been, these stored childhood trauma in our body, in our mind, is something we can't help but we just do it. So if we're born with an undeveloped, so now she goes a little bit into science where she talks about we're born with undeveloped nervous systems. Our brain grows rapidly, reaching 90% of it in adult before age of 6, and then it hones in its functions until we're in our mid-20s. So our human nervous system is wired to depend on other people beginning from the moment of conception, and it is our earliest relationship that creates the neural connections that may last our lifetime. So how our parent figures interact with us, handle stress, cope, and with upsetting experience that influence the pathway formed in our brain. Are we feeling this? Does anyone have anything to add for now? Your own stories or anything you want to share? Yeah, go, Jill.
For me, it was the bit when you said that Dominique and Monique were immediately infatuated with each other over this trauma bond. And let's just say that when I met my husband, I was like, oh, he's going to be the man I'm going to marry. And it was just, anyway.
Yeah.
And I was actually literally just walking. I hadn't actually read, I hadn't even looked at the title this morning, but trauma bonds was what totally came into my head this morning about how being bonded over trauma, over common trauma. And once one partner starts to heal those traumas, then you've no longer got that sort of bond, and issues can
it dissolves that bond as you start to heal yourself.
Yeah, I always used to say that my husband needed to be so yeah, what was it? I needed to be needed and my husband needed me, if that made sense.
Oh, that gets talked about later in the book. That's actually part of it. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I randomly came up with that sort of a few months ago with a friend. I said, the problem is that my husband, I needed to be needed and he needed me. And now I don't need to be needed. It's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I'll keep that one in mind. It comes up a bit later, like in these couple of chapters. Yeah, good one, Jewel. Christina.
So I just want to share that I read this book similar. It's like kind of called Finding the Love You Want. And because I read that book, I chose the opposite of the dynamics that I was used to in my family dynamics.
Yes.
And I married the best husband on the planet. I've been married for 7 years and he treats me like a freaking queen. And I post a lot on social media about our marriage, and people like leave dysfunctional relationships just because they see how happy I am, because I did the work. And so the book that she's telling us to work on right now, if you guys really implement that, and so 7 years married, like I'll be the fast forward version of what you will get if you do all this work. And it's not easy.
Amazing.
It's not easy, but it's worth it. I just want to share that. Yeah,
that's awesome. I think these kind of stories are like really inspiring for people, right? Because if they're in a similar situation or they felt that, when we can get like our peers, what we see as our peers, get through that, it makes us feel like, oh, I can do that too. So that's epic. You should write that when we take the screenshot and we put it up, because people love good examples, right? Like we need people to look towards, and it's like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, amazing. Jackie.
Hi there. Yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting. I just wondered, when people.
I really like your accent. Sorry, continue.
Thank you. I just wondered, say you have that trauma bond and that need with your other half, as you heal and work on yourself, and as they do too, whether it is possible to grow together, or does it get to a point where it's just that love that you have for each other, the desire isn't there anymore. So and I guess it's individual, it's on an individual basis. There's never sort of a blanket answer to that, but I thought it was interesting. And also with trauma and how it shapes us as we get older, is it possible to like unlearn some of these behaviors, and like compulsions that we're drawn to, the way that we're wired in our mind? Is it possible to do it like yourself through reading and reflecting and therapy? So yeah, I just thought that was
absolutely, yeah. Like I think a long time ago, people always thought, oh, when you get to a certain age, it's like fixed. So they feel like, whatever we got, it's like we got up to this point and that's it. It's like bad luck sort of thing. But definitely over these years, there's been so much research that's done on neuroplasticity. I can't even say that word. Someone type it in the chat for me. I'm Asian. So yeah, we definitely can change our behavior, which was really exciting, because that means no matter at what age, if we're willing to put in the effort, we can change this. A lot of it, what I've found from talking to a lot of people now, certainly in the last 5 years, I've always been like into personal development, probably since about in my early 20s, because I was in a certain situation that I really want to get out. So I would sort of read to try and find my way out. But I think a lot of the work was probably in the last 5 to 7 years sort of thing, when I really looked into a lot of research and what does it really take? Like, can I change? Am I broken? Like, is there something that's wrong with me? And definitely after learning a lot of tools, I know it's possible now, because I've met a lot of relationship around me. A lot, and some of those really important relationship begins with my family. We weren't a very close family. Like we weren't like arguing a lot or yelling at each other or things like that. But it's just, it wasn't sort of a safe environment where we could talk about things. And this come from all this trauma, right? Like my mum is kind of like what the story's mum example is. Like she's very controlling what you can say, do, that type of thing. Everything is a threat. Like I couldn't go to swimming, I couldn't go to birthday parties, I couldn't go out at all. I never went out. So everything was like very controlled environment. And so I would turn inward a lot. Like I used to just not talk. This coming, like putting myself out there, running book club and this type of thing, it's really stemming from me being uncomfortable as an introvert, but knowing me having done this work, I know it's possible for others. And that hurt that I have like mostly healed now. I wouldn't say it's like these things 100% healed, but like mostly healed is what I want to share with others, to know it's possible, to know that there are tools we can rewire our brain. So yeah, definitely. If you're feeling certain things, yeah, feel free, maybe DM later, and I can sort of tell you things that I've worked on and what's possible, and the path that I've taken. Oh, I just realized someone's in the waiting room. I don't know how long they've been there for. Yeah, so yeah, definitely. A lot of it is not traditional path though. It is more unconventional ways to do it. But even these unconventional ways, I see that a lot of psychologists have taken them on because they just work. It's like, why does it matter? If it works, it works. Things that are in a framework, because it has to be approved and go through certain things, it's a specific way. So even when these practitioners know there are better ways, a lot of time they can't go outside that frame to help the people in front of them, because licensing and certain things, right? So yeah, no, don't give up. There's definitely ways forward. And this book, I think, tries to bring a lot of awareness too, from what I have read so far. So yeah, keep talking to each other as well. Like a lot of us have done various work, so we can always learn from each other too. Christina, I'm sorry I left you in the waiting room. I hope you weren't there for long. We're just in the middle of chapter 3 about recreating our childhood. Okay, so we're up to all right, so most of us don't have a regulated nervous system. Our body struggles to turn off the stress response, keeping us stuck in survival mode, causing us to feel unsafe, easily activating this, feeling irritable with a limited tolerance for frustration, causing us to fly off the handle or overreact to events. We don't feel safe enough to open ourselves to receive connection or support from another person. I felt this for a long time too. Like, even when people want to help me, it's like it's like a war. Like, that's like not allowing people in. And yeah, it takes a lot of work to like work through that and see our pattern, to know that there are better ways forward, and accepting that help is it gives us a better outcome. When we choose the right people, right? Of course, you can't just open yourself up to everyone. So feeling your way to safety, and your faulty perception system. So she talks about, I'll skip into this because obviously we can't sort of cover word for word, but she talks about this thing where it's like 4 modes of our nervous system. And so understanding this helps us. So the 4 modes are the connector mode, where we feel safe and social. So I feel safe physically and emotionally. I'm connected to others in the world around me. Then the second one is distractor mode. This is the fight or flight response. So I feel unsafe physically or emotionally, and I need to fight back or run away. Then third is the pleaser mode. I feel unsafe physically or emotionally, and I'm hypervigilant to others and the world around me. Then number 4 is detacher mode, which is the freeze mode. So I feel unsafe physically or emotionally, and I can't cope and am immobilized, or I just shut down. So which one do you guys resonate with? I sometimes don't think it's like you're just one of them. I find myself kind of have gone through these different modes in different stages in my life. Peter.
Thank you, Calms. Oh gosh, yes, I'm glad you asked this question, because I just wanted to share. I feel like I've been through all of those as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think it did. And I was thinking, doing some reflection and thinking about, because I experienced a lot of trauma as a child, and the biggest change in my life was I had 2 long-term relationships that were a carry-on from my childhood, 100%. But it was when I had children, when I had my first daughter, that there was a big shift in me wanting to change from everything that I've kind of experienced. Yeah. So when I had my first daughter, I had a bit of, before I had her, my mum passed away like 2 weeks before I got married. So I can relate to all different traumas, like all different experiences. And then I kind of think, well, what is happening in my life that makes me go into these modes? You know, like that's what I was reflecting on today. It was like, well, what is the situation that, and I think this is the key where I think we can change.
Yes.
With having this awareness. And honestly, I had years and years of therapy, you know, from going through past traumas. And I have so much understanding of that whole process, but I keep it all in. It's all in here, like and I have trouble getting it out. But I guess my point was about those different. I loved being able to reflect on what's happening in my body, you know, what's going on, but I'm starting to like hone in on what is it that would have sent me into that.
Yeah, that's a
Spot.
great reflection. That's really good.
Yeah.
So last week we were talking about did anyone do the homework for last week where we were just like noticing what we were feeling in our body, like the sensations? Yeah. So sensations and then then followed by the actual feeling, because a lot of times we may feel the sensation and don't even know what it is that we're feeling. And Peter's really good when that she brought up this thing of like, okay, now I'm gaining more awareness though. It's like, what triggers me to go into this mood? When we can see the pattern, that's what often breaks our minds. Go, oh, okay, I see it, I get it now. This is what triggers my thing. And then you have control, you have more power over it when you see it from that lens. All right, Christina, let's share.
When I wrote this chapter 3, the 4 modes, I immediately thought of there is 2 of them that are more outwards. I want to go the connector mode, the pleaser mode. I want this. And the other 2, like the distractor and detacher, is more like, no, I want to go away from.
Yeah, right.
And that is so, I have experienced all of them. And sometimes I've been to several big meetings, and sometimes I want to have them all at once. But we talked, I think it was last year, about what is my preference, because I'm an extrovert. I am usually more outwards. I want to connect with people, but even I need to go into myself, and that could be discovered like a fight mode or flight mode, but I want to go inside to think. So that is not, I'm going away from people. No, that is my preference. I want to go and think and ponder about things. But I really love the 4 modes.
Yeah, the 4 modes are great. And I think that it's important for us to realize none of these are good or bad. They are all useful in depending on context, right? Like if there's something actually dangerous in front of us, we should be wanting to fight or run away. So the key is like to know if we are perceiving what's in reality, what's actually in front of it, does it warrant that kind of danger or threat response that our body is being triggered for? So sometimes it could be you need to go, like there's a robber that can hit, you should run away about that one, right?
Yeah,
but
and if the cause is I'm an introvert and I want to have my peace of mind to think about my answer, then it's no problem.
Yeah,
then it's okay.
That's okay as well. Yeah, to take a moment to think about it. That might not be, hey, I'm running away. It's just like I need a moment to reflect on this on my own. Yeah, so it's knowing if the situation is we're giving the right response that we're happy with for that, and that is what giving us the control. Kathy.
I just wanted to say that I was attracted to this book because you shared a screenshot of the polyvagal theory, which I've been reading a lot for the past probably almost 12 months.
That is the full mode.
Yeah, so I was reading about all this theory and then trying to figure out what is going on with me, because I'm at the moment dabbling between the connector mode and the bottom mode. So the top, the bottom, the top, the bottom. At the moment I don't do the middle. Normal response I would do the middle, but at the moment I'm just going extremes. I do not understand what is going on.
What gets you to shut down? Just out of curiosity.
I realized recently it was the grief. I haven't processed. The grief just took me longer. I just realized that was a part of it. Like my dad passed away during COVID, so I couldn't see him. And then the fact that he was my safety, that you need to feel safe to, if you learn about the polyvagal theory, you need to feel safe in your own body. So he's like he's my dad. So he's like, I look up to him, blah, blah, and then last year my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So he's like, basically I got married to someone who's like my dad. But kind of in a good way. Like I manifested all the good stuff about what I wanted in a man, and I got my husband. And then last year I lost one, but I lost the man I loved the most to cancer 4 years ago. And then last year, I almost lost my husband to
Yeah, you
cancer.
have to
So it's
face
like
that.
double
You
grief.
have to
Like,
face that threat again in front
yes,
of you.
yes,
Yeah,
twice.
yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
so I think my whole body just short circuited. Like, it's
Yeah,
just,
that makes sense.
yeah, now
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, I don't know what to do about it. Like, but I'm aware this is what's happening, and polyvagal theory just had the most close most direct explanation to what I'm
Mm,
going through.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
so
just want to say,
weird,
no,
but
it's
yeah.
so awesome for you to share that, Kathy. Like just being able to openly talk about it, I think that in itself is showing how much you've grown. Like I certainly remember when I had difficulty voicing it to anyone, let alone like a group, right? It's like even just talking about it, like I would get this lump in my throat and I'll be like, like the watery eyes and that. So I think the fact that you can share that like in the manner that you have, that's absolutely amazing. So
I think I did
yeah.
some work over the holidays. I know I've been racing and all those things, but because you were away from Australia for that X amount of weeks,
Yeah.
I get to detach myself from the place of trauma last year, and then kind of read up
Right.
on all of this stuff, and then kind of
It's
it's
good.
just like, okay,
Yeah.
you own this, Kathy. You are
You own
enough.
this,
You
yeah.
are, you are your experience, good or bad, that kind of thing. So you just be, safe space, blah blah, that kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
otherwise I can't talk about it. I just felt like I've got this shame. Like both the man I loved the most in my life got cancer. Like what did I do
Oh,
to
that's
deserve
it.
this?
Yeah.
Like, what the F,
Yeah. It talks about
but
that here, that you somewhere in this book, it talks about that shame, how
oh
the
yeah,
things that happen around us, we put it on ourselves. Like obviously
yes,
that's got nothing to do with you. And I'm
yes.
like, you can look around, it's like, and I does anybody think that, her husband or her dad having that has anything to do with her?
Yeah, it's like, what did I do?
Like,
Like, did I
like,
kill
no,
a cat? Did
no one's
I,
gonna think.
hit a bird? I don't know, karmic response of the world. I don't know. You keep thinking about this stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you know what? It's just, that's it. But I think
I see the karmic response stuff only is responsive to like each individual person.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
You don't take the burden of like the
Yeah,
others
but
like
the thing
that.
is, it's cultural. I think it's just,
Yeah.
I think if you're in the Asian culture or the,
I
Eastern
know what you
culture,
mean,
you
yeah.
have this
There's certain beliefs about that.
certain
Yeah.
social stigmas, like, oh,
Yes.
your husband got cancer after your dad. Did you do something? Like, oh,
yeah.
God, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my share. But if you guys wanted to, any of you wanted to have a chat, PM me. That I don't mind.
Yeah,
anything,
that's
so.
awesome. And Jewel.
Yeah, firstly, Kathy, well done for sort of sharing. I'm really sorry that people put blame on you. It's the most horrible thing when people
Could be
sort
on
of
herself. Is it on herself or is it from other people? Is it your perceived thing that other people will judge you, or have other people actually said it?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Definitely
Yeah,
both.
right. So
Yeah.
it's
So I was like,
stacked.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
stacked.
just the comment you said at the end it made me think that it was from other people as well. But I
Mm.
would just say that when I look down these different modes, I've definitely been in all these different modes. But I think what has really helped me is to the awareness. So I naturally, being introverted, if I get into difficult situations, want to shut down. I want to sort of run away. And there's good reasons for that when things are getting sort of too much. But I will now voice that, just sort of say, this situation is getting too difficult at the moment. I just need to have a break. I'm just going to go off for a few minutes, calm my nervous system down a bit, and then we can come back and carry on with that story. And that has really, really helped, rather than, because it doesn't, if you're someone who just runs away, the person thinks, what the hell have I done? And, I need to talk, and, and it's about that communicating what's happening in yourself so that they know that you're coming back to carry on the conversation, but they need to respect the fact that in that moment it's too much.
Yeah. Right. Let's keep going. All right. So thank you for sharing, everyone. Our subconscious is always scanning our surrounding for signs that we're safe or we're in danger, depending on our beliefs. And we hear some of like each person talking, and we kind of can hear what their beliefs are on certain things. So our subconscious mind scans for this, whatever we believe. So if you have certain beliefs about these things, it's good to write them down because there's tools to get rid of those beliefs. So think about if those beliefs serves you. And then if you want them gone, then reach out. Let's talk about it, get rid of them. All right. So if you ever experience, so here's an example here where if you ever experience turbulence on an airplane, then you'll understand how this neuroception works. So when a plane starts going shaky, bumpy, and you feel that, you'll instantly look around to see how other passengers is. Like, do they look scared? Are they reacting? And if people around us appears calm, like it's all good, then like their posture, it's like it's open, it's relaxed, their facial expression is soft, it's kind, their breathing is regular, then we're likely to feel calm. So we know, okay, maybe it's our first flying experience. It's like we haven't had that, but it's all good, right? So everyone looks calm, then we'll feel fine. But if anyone gives off cues that they feel nervous, they're visibly reacting to a situation, like it's emergency, things have come down, people are screaming, they're moving around, then we'll shift into that fight or flight mode because we know something is really wrong. So this turbulence will activate our body's freeze or shut down response. So we often see and sense what our subconscious wants us to see and sense, not necessarily what's actually happening in our environment. It's what our subconscious mind wants us to see based on what we believe. So in the instance of the turbulence on a plane, if we're afraid of flying or have heard stories of plane crashes or have experienced traumatic turbulence in the past, our subconscious is more likely to interpret the signals of danger from those surrounding us, even if no danger exists. So if we were bullied or shamed in childhood for the way we looked, the way we dressed by our parent figures or peers, we may filter these as an indication, and we will assume that maybe other people talking about our appearance behind our back. If our parents' figure continuously demand like high achievement or perfection from the kids, then we may filter our actions through our own imaginary, often unattainable expectation, or feel that we can never measure up. When I look at my life, I have caught myself snapping before. It's like, no matter what I do, it's never good enough for you, right? So that is exactly like this, right? And it will only be in the moment. If I caught myself about this, I'll be like, I need to do something about that. It's like, it's obviously that triggers something, right? So she talks about if you, like me, were abandoned emotionally or physically as a young child, you may interpret any moment of distance or disconnection with a partner or close friend as an indication of similar abandonment. In those of us with this core abandonment moon, we easily perceive moments of distance as a sign of conflict or upset within our relationship. She says, I used to panic when a partner didn't respond to my text in what I thought was timely manner. I've seen this a lot. Like in relationship, I have like been with people and like, I'm not the person that texts, especially when I used to work like in an office. I don't play with my phone, but then I would have like people expecting like an instant message response. Like, it's been like 5 minutes. Why didn't you write back? So like someone's putting hands like, then it'll be like, it's lunch. Like, don't you have a break at lunch? Or why didn't you reply me at lunch if you were busy before? It's like, what? Right? It's like I was just eating. Like I was walking on the park. It's not like I'm purposely ignoring you, but it's like, then I noticed like people would get upset about certain things that I even remove the WhatsApp notification on the blue ticks. So people don't know if I read or not read them. Because I just don't want people to misinterpret those. It's like, how come you read my message? I saw the tick. You're like, you didn't write back. It's like there are moments when, it's like, it could be really normal, right? Like I could just be in a meeting, walking around, look at my phone for 1 second, put my phone back in my pocket, but I'm like heading into the next meeting room. It's like, there's no time to actually type anything back. But it's like I have every intention to write back at the end of the day, but that wouldn't be okay, right? To certain people. So yeah, so a lot of times people, depending on what they believe, they form their own imaginary like circumstance. Like, well, that person could be seeing someone else, or they could be doing something else, or they don't care about me. And it could be like nothing about that at all. But those things would cause problem in the relationship, because then you can't fight about nothing because someone thinks there's something. Yeah, so when this state becomes chronic or consistent over time, it can manifest itself as social anxiety, post-traumatic stress, difficulty in managing emotions, and we're scanning our environment, engaging in worst case scenario thinking, anxiously waiting for like the shoe to drop. Then it's like something happens, like I knew it. And maybe those other times, like nothing actually happened, but there's like people were just forced to do something they didn't want to because they weren't happy anymore. So yeah, so she talks about, yeah, notice these indication of like overreactive or aggressive behavior, even maybe when there's like no threat in present, that could we be misinterpreting signs, and just perceiving everything as dangerous. I know my mom does this all the time. Like there'll be people that tries to help her, like they can come and like, you know, maybe help her get a quote to cut it out on a tree or to help her fix something, and it could be like, no, that person's bad, that person's bad, that person's bad, they're after me, they're after something. So it's just an overreaction on a danger that isn't there. But yeah, somehow I guess these things, you know, things we don't resolve go to our kids. Then we have to find a way to you know, mend these things, because we sometimes we don't even realize we've picked those up early on. And certainly if we're mums, we definitely don't want to like pass those on to our kids, right? So it's really important we do this work, so that, yeah, our kids don't have all of this. All right, so she talks about neuroception. I actually haven't heard of this term like this, but she talks about neuroception is an unconscious process that we don't have conscious control over, though we can learn to shift how we instinctively interpret and respond to social cues from others. The first step is to become aware of those situations when we subconsciously assign old meanings to what we believe is happening around us. If someone we love sends us signals or tell us they want to be alone, we can break our habit of immediately assuming that we're being abandoned, reaffirming our deepest fear that we're unworthy of love. Instead, we can accept and respect their need for space or solitude as something we all need from time to time. I like in relationship, I probably face this more not as the trauma one, but the other way. So I will want my own time, and people would think there's something wrong. It's like, I just want my own time. Not because I don't want to see you. Yeah. So the more conscious we can all become of our subconscious perception and belief, the better able will be to remove the condition filter that prevents us from accurately interpreting the behavior of others around us. So we talked about those 4 stress response. She talks about that in a lot more pages I'm going through. I like the way she talks about some of these. So let's talk about those 4 modes a little bit more. So that fight response one, the eruptor, which was also called distractor mode, is often defensive and can't see our own part in the current circumstance. Don't calm down easily, often holding a grudge, considering revenge, and often transitioning from nitpicking to throwing a tantrum and waiting and watching for the next issue. So perceive most social behavior as an insult or hurt. Dr. Nicole says that Sophia, her ex-girlfriend, often was the eruptor mode. She always felt that she was being taken advantage of or that others were out to get her. She was regularly in conflict, muttering things under her breath, dirty looks, outright yelling, or arguing when something didn't go her way. And then there's the distractor mode. The distractor mode is pushing people away physically or allowing them to be consumed by their work or their obligation. They'll keep themselves busy, numb themselves with drugs, sex, alcohol, foods, other substance. They'll do anything to avoid the confrontation, ghosting others or changing subject if it's a stressful or uncomfortable conversation that could lead to conflict. Then there's that detacher mode. So I'm going through this relatively fast, picking the bits, right? But yeah, she writes a bit more about this. Detacher mode, I like the way she described this one. She calls this like the spaceship. So she was saying that in detacher mode, like that shutdown mode, is when perceived threats by freezing or shut down completely, they deal with their feelings by disassociating or separating, climbing into what I call the spaceship. Their body may be in the moment, but their mind is zooming far away from the present and their current problems or perceived pain. There'll be like mental blankness, and the emotions or sensation in their body or environment around them is just like it's shut down. They don't want to feel anything. They could just be going through the motion of making meals, running errands, but emotionally it's checked out. Frequently orbit around us in their own spaceship. Christina, you wanted to add something?
I thought of a situation where I actually had two of the stress responses at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
See yourself a board meeting with a lot of bosses in it. And for some of the bosses, I had the detacher mode. They had a grudge, I had a grudge, no. And the other one was more like a connector mode. I want to connect with them. So I was torn between the same meeting with a lot of different people. You could be torn. So that was me having, okay, which mode to focus on? That was the connector mode. But in me there is some people who just want to, negative. They want to say no to a project plan, for instance. So they had so feeling two modes at the same time, that's not easy, but it makes sense now.
Yeah, I mean, human emotions are complex things, right? I think, these kind of books, this is just like a model. There's plenty of this sort of model, but what I really like about these type of models is like, there's probably more than 4 modes, yeah. But at least when we have these 4 modes and these terminology, it helps us in our mind put them into sort of the various bucket and make sense of it. Without any labels or terminology, it'll be very hard to discuss like, okay, yeah, this is the type of experience, or this is a kind of thing I feel or have experienced, right? So yeah, I always find framework, even though, it's not 100%, it helps us understand things and communicate it to somebody else. Yeah. Christina.
So I just want to ask everybody in the panel.
Yeah, go for it.
When people say, where do you feel it in your body? Tell me, where do you feel it? And I always make that shit up. I'm like, I think I feel it in my left lung. Like I don't, because I'm like, everybody's staring. It's like this group right here. And I'm like, and they're like,
I like this.
Okay, and it's someone guru's telling me, and I'm like, I feel it on my right pinky. Like I'm just making things up because it's like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't feel anything in my body. So am I the only one that feels like this? I just wanted to ask that.
This would, you know what this would go into? The pleaser mode. Because you're trying to please the person in front of you by giving them an answer when it's not your actual answer. That's quite funny. I like that. I like it when we can like very honestly just talk about it, because then it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And someone else might see a different part than me and they could add their own bit, right? But yeah, when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, no, that we just learned about that. But this is really helpful because like I wouldn't see my own blind spot either. And someone else may not see their own one. So But when we talk about these things, it could be very obvious to somebody else or like the whole group, you know? So, and getting that perspective really helps us. It's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Christine, I just
Um,
wanted to answer. I think with my head very structured. So when people in, full day workshop, how do you feel? I was more like,
How do you
what
feel?
are my options?
Yeah, what are my options? And
I
I feel like
totally
your
relate,
options are great.
Christina.
Do I have to feel good? Do I have to feel excited? Do I need to put this energy in? Yeah, that logical mind thing is a funny one. I think for a long time I'm very much like, yeah, really logical. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, if I want to take some notes, I'll take some notes. Like, I'm like, why do I have to participate in things or what? Then it's like, but then like over time I'll be like, oh no. I think the more that I read, the more I realize logic isn't all there is. It's like, no, but see, if you're more animated and you participate, it's like you get more out of it. You actually learn more, and other people are more happy and it's more engaged, and the whole experience is more fun. So, having that is like, there is definitely emotional aspects, not just the logical thing. Because you can talk about all informative things, but if it's like delivered really boring, well, it's like no one want to be in there. It's like everyone will have the camera off, everyone's just going like this and go, yeah, whatever, put my legs up. So this is great. Oh man, time flies. We have 5 minutes. Oh, I need to finish the last mode. The pleaser mode is like keeping the pace, avoiding conflict altogether. And then, yeah, the connector mode, I mean, that's like the preferred one, right? Like the calm and collaboratively solving problems, which is like what we are doing. So that's how much do we get through? Let's see. So then there is some checklist here so there's actually a checklist for those 4 modes. And it has checklists on like your body, your mind, on each of those things, on each of those 4 modes, which is like, it could be like body, I feel unable to relax and may even feel uncomfortable, unsettled, agitated, or anxious. So if you're interested, go through that and it'll give you a better idea of which mode and which one connects with you most. So you can start seeing your own pattern. Then there is a regular, so that's one thing to identify, right? But after that, there is a regulated nervous system checklist. So yeah, so you can go through that and know, okay, this is like kind of like the way I want to feel safe and social response. What does that look like? So that's chapter 3. I don't think we can capture chapter 4 in like 4 minutes. Let's see, did I miss anything? I'm so extroverted, I can be an extrovert. Yeah. Chapter 4 is around the core wounds, how those condition our life. So we could be tiptoeing around people, like I'm causing my mum to be in a bad mood, or dad drinks because I'm bad. Or in Kathy's case, it's like my dad and my husband maybe have cancer because of me. So this one talks about like wanting other people to be happy and making ourselves as the person that's the causing it, for whatever reason. Oh, Pauline is in the waiting room. Yeah, and then I think for a long time, like I never thought this, but I know my someone have said this to me before. Like when my parents were getting like divorced, and they're like, some people would say, it's not your fault. And I'm in my mind, I never thought it was my fault. What are you talking about? Why would you even say that? But I can understand how they could, in kids' mind, it could be like, oh, maybe we were bad kids or we weren't good, so that's why our parents are not around. Hello, Pauline. Good to see you. Did you get the time mixed up? Because we're like ending in like 2 minutes.
I know. I just want to say hi to everyone.
Good to see you pop in. Yeah.
So I just see a new place to stay close to it because I'm far and I get tired easy. So, but good
No, it's
for letting
good
me.
to have you pop in. You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And in this chapter, she talks about, have you guys heard of the internal family system? Yeah. Yeah, a few people are nodding. And for the people that's done NLP, internal family system is very close to parts integration. Because internal family system is talking about the different parts of ourselves, which is, to try and speed this up a little bit, it's like, it's around, there could be like, I'll talk about myself because it's easier. So the different parts would be like, there's the me, that's like the boss, like the one that takes the action, the one that does the thing that I want in life. Yeah. So that is like the main version of me, right? That part. Then there's a part of me that's like a child. It's like a bit of that wounded child that I had to take a long time into healing her. And that comes from various things growing up, how I felt, like how my mom wasn't here, like that kind of thing. So there's like that inner child, which I think most people have this inner child. This what her whole book is, right? Like healing our inner child that everyone have. And then for me, you may have different parts. For me, there's also like kind of like this love version part where if I'm very close to someone, there's another part of me that comes out, which isn't kind of like the kid one or like the main me. It's just like a different version, which people don't normally see. So a lot of the work that I had to do was like knowing these parts exist, but they kind of have different agendas, yeah? So if these parts have different agendas in their own right to try and like, you know, preserve yourself like for what it's doing, you could get in conflict. So the point of this like family integration thing or parts integration is to know that there is one point that we all share the same purpose or goal. There is a common thread that we can get these different parts to come to. It's just that we have to get our unconscious mind to realize that. It is then we can all travel to the same part so that we don't have these different parts self-sabotaging us, which you hear people say a lot. How come I'm self-sabotaging myself? Like, this main part of me wants to reach this thing. You're self-sabotaging. You're doing this thing and it's not working. It's not helping, of course. When we are able to have that awareness and align it back, you realize your parts will come together. That's when you get that like oneness, and you feel more and more yourself. That's the people chase about, like being my authentic self. A lot of people like the idea of being their authentic self, but others around them will see that they're not. It's like, how is that authentic? Because they could have another part doing something that doesn't seem authentic to other people. It could be like, hey, I'm chasing money, so I'll do this thing in this moment to get this thing. But people may not see that as an authentic thing, but they themselves will see that. But it's part of the thing. So yeah, start seeing the different parts. We might try and capture this section a little bit next week. I think it's quite important. All right, let's take a screenshot before we forget. You guys ready? On 3, 2, 1. All right. I think I missed Pauline. Let me have a look. I feel like it went blank. Let me see. Yeah, Pauline, you're blank. Let's do another one because like I don't know why you weren't there. Did you just turn your camera on? Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. All right. I got that one. Yeah, all good. Anyone have anything last share before we jump off? Yeah, awesome. We'd love to explore different parts. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe we can even do it. Maybe we can do parts integration live. We'll see.
That's really
that
good.
would definitely make it go overtime. But if you guys are, if anyone is like thinking, I'm highly interested, what are you talking about? What's this parts integration? What can we do? Well, how do we integrate? If you're feeling that, send me a DM and we'll see. It's something that probably could take the whole session, like it could take an hour. But yeah, if everyone's interested, I could perform one for someone, and you can see what that looks like. So you can see it integrate live. But that would be quite fun. Yeah. Alrighty. What's my IG? Kamsfung. So yeah, just look for me. yeah, just IG me or Facebook me. You'll find me. Cool. All right. I'll catch you guys. I'm going to post a screenshot and you guys can type something on there. See you next week.
See ya. Bye.